There are moments in time when the universe seems to whisper. January 2026, the final week of the first month. And somewhere between the cold stillness of winter and the promise of what comes next, an astrologer named Susan Miller made a prediction that would ripple through millions of lives. Not a vague promise, not a gentle nudge toward optimism, but a declaration. Huge money for Sagittarius. This is not a story about whether the stars can truly guide our fortunes. This is a story about belief, timing, and the woman who has spent decades translating the language of the cosmos into something deeply, undeniably human. This is a story of what happens when prophecy meets the present moment. To understand the weight of this prediction, you must first understand the woman behind it. Susan Miller is not a celebrity in the traditional sense. She does not appear on talk shows. She does not court controversy. And yet, her words reach further than most headlines ever will. Born in 1947 in New York City, Miller entered the world under the sign of Aries, a fire sign known for its pioneering spirit. But it was not her own sign that would define her life's work. It was the entire zodiac, the intricate dance of planets, the mathematics of celestial movement. Miller's introduction to astrology came early, through her mother, who was herself a student of the stars. But Miller's approach would become something different, rigorous, detailed, exhaustive. Where others offer horoscopes in a few sentences, Miller wrote essays. Where others spoke in metaphors, she cited planetary degrees, lunar nodes, eclipse cycles. Her monthly forecast for Astrology Zone, her website, launched in 1995, could run 20, 30, sometimes 40 pages for a single zodiac sign. People didn't just read Susan Miller. They studied her. By the mid-2000s, her following had grown into something remarkable. Celebrities whispered about checking her forecasts. Business executives timed deals around her planetary warnings. Millions of readers from over 190 countries refresh her website each month, waiting, sometimes impatiently, for her predictions to appear. But here's what made Miller different from the countless astrologers vying for attention in the digital age. She was specific. She didn't hide behind vague language. She named dates. She identified which planets were involved. She explained why a particular alignment mattered, what it echoed from history, how it connected to larger cosmic patterns. And when she said something significant was coming, people listened. By January 2026, Susan Miller had been writing her forecast for over 3 decades. She had weathered skepticism, health challenges, and the relentless demand of her audience, but she had never stopped. And as the year turned, as the world moved from the chaos of late 2025 into the uncertain promise of 2026, Miller sat down to write her January forecast. What she saw in the stars for Sagittarius was unusual. It was powerful, and she chose her words carefully. The last week of January 2026, January 24th through January 31st, 8 days. In the grand sweep of a year, a mere sliver of time. But according to Susan Miller, these 8 days held something extraordinary for those born under the sign of Sagittarius. The archer, the traveler, the philosopher of the zodiac. Huge money, not financial opportunity, not promising prospects. Huge money. The language was uncharacteristic even for Miller, whose forecasts, while detailed, usually maintained a measured optimism. But here in black and white, she was pointing to a specific window of time and telling an entire sign, roughly 1/12 of humanity, that significant wealth could arrive. What had she seen? Astrology operates on cycles. The movement of planets through the zodiac creates patterns, angles, aspects, relationships between celestial bodies that astrologers believe influence life on Earth. And in late January 2026, several rare alignments were converging. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and good fortune, had been moving through a favorable position relative to Sagittarius' sector of income and resources. This was not new. Jupiter's cycles are long, its influence gradual. But what made this week different was a series of additional factors. Venus, the planet associated with money, attraction, and material gain, was forming a harmonious aspect with Jupiter, a trine in astrological terms. Trines are considered flowing, easy, beneficial. They suggest doors opening without resistance, opportunities arriving with grace. At the same time, Mars, the planet of action, drive, and assertiveness, was positioned in a way that energized Sagittarius' house of career and public recognition. And then there was the moon. The new moon on January 29th would occur in Aquarius, activating what astrologers call Sagittarius' third house, the realm of communication, contracts, negotiation. Individually, these were positive signals. Together, Miller saw something she felt compelled to emphasize: a window, brief but potent, the kind of astrological, whether where a contract could be signed, an investment could pay off, a windfall could arrive seemingly out of nowhere. But here is where Susan Miller's approach revealed its complexity. She didn't promise miracles. She never does. What she described was potential, cosmic momentum, a tide that could lift those who were ready, who had been working, who had positioned themselves, consciously or not, to receive. This was not lottery magic. This was the universe aligning to reward preparation with opportunity. And for millions of Sagittarians across the world, the question became immediate and personal. Would they be ready? Information moves at the speed of light now. A sentence written on a website in New York can be read in Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Sydney within seconds. When Susan Miller's January 2026 forecast went live, it didn't just reach her dedicated readers. It exploded. Screenshots of the prediction appeared on Instagram. TikTok videos dissected the astrological details. Twitter threads debated the implications. Sagittarius means flooded group chats. Friends texted friends. Strangers messaged strangers. Did you see what Susan Miller said? The phrase huge money became shorthand for collective hope, a shared anticipation. And suddenly, the last week of January wasn't just another week. It was marked, circled, weighted with significance. But why? Why does a prediction from an astrologer, even one as respected as Susan Miller, resonate so deeply with so many people? The answer is not simple. It touches on psychology, cultural moment, and something older than either: humanity's eternal desire to find meaning in chaos. We live in an era of overwhelming information and persistent uncertainty. Economic anxiety is a constant hum in the background of modern life. Jobs feel precarious. Savings feel insufficient. The future feels unknowable. And into this anxiety, astrology offers something precious: a framework, not answers necessarily, but a language for asking questions, a way to make sense of timing, to feel that randomness might actually contain pattern, that our struggles might be part of a larger story the universe is telling. Susan Miller's prediction didn't create this hunger. It simply met it with specificity. For Sagittarians who had been struggling financially, the forecast felt like validation, like acknowledgement that relief might be coming. For those who had been working toward a goal, it felt like cosmic confirmation. For those who believed in astrology as more than entertainment, it felt like sacred information, a preview of fate's hand. And for skeptics, they watched with bemused curiosity, some dismissive, some quietly wondering. What if? But beneath the viral excitement, beneath the memes and the speculation, something more serious was happening. People were making decisions. Belief changes behavior. This is not mystical. It's neuroscience. When we believe something is possible, our brain shifts. We become more attuned to opportunities. We take actions we might otherwise avoid. We notice doors we would have walked past. Psychologists call this the expectancy effect. Athletes call it momentum. Investors call it sentiment. And in the days leading up to the last week of January 2026, Sagittarians, and those who loved them, began to act on Susan Miller's prediction in tangible ways. Some were small acts, a resume updated and sent, a pitch finally made to a potential client, a negotiation entered with more confidence than usual. Others were larger, investments reconsidered, business plans dusted off and revised, conversations initiated that had been postponed for months. And some were pure faith. Lottery tickets purchased, prayers whispered, intentions set under the new moon on January 29th. What united these actions was a sense of alignment, not just internal, I believe this, but external. The universe is with me this week. This is the paradox at the heart of prophecy. Does a prediction create the outcome, or does it simply reveal what was already in motion? If a Sagittarius lands a major contract during the last week of January, was it because the stars aligned in their favor? Or because Susan Miller's prediction gave them the courage to negotiate harder, the confidence to ask for more, the belief that success was cosmically ordained and therefore achievable? The answer might be both, or neither, or it might not matter. Because what did happen during those 8 days was undeniable. Stories began to emerge. A Sagittarius freelance writer in London received an unexpected email. A publishing house wanted to option her book proposal. The advance was 6 figures. She signed the contract on January 27th. A software engineer in San Francisco, born December 10th, received a promotion he'd been chasing for 2 years. It came with a salary increase he hadn't dared negotiate for. The offer was extended January 28th. A Sagittarius entrepreneur in Lagos closed a deal with an investor she'd been courting since November. The funding would transform her startup. The agreement was finalized January 30th. Were these isolated incidents? Coincidences that would have happened regardless of celestial alignment? Or was Susan Miller right? The truth is slippery. For every story of windfall and success, there were Sagittarians whose last week of January passed without extraordinary financial change, who went to work, paid their bills, waited for something that never came. But here's what the believers understood, what Susan Miller herself has always emphasized. Astrology is not a guarantee. It's a weather report. You can know a storm is coming and still choose to sail. You can know the sun will shine and still stay indoors. The planets move. They create conditions. But what you do with those conditions, that remains eternally your choice. To dismiss astrology as mere superstition is to miss something important about human history. For thousands of years, across every inhabited continent, cultures looked up at the night sky and saw a meaning. The Babylonians tracked Venus. The Mayans built entire civilizations around celestial cycles. Chinese emperors employed court astrologers to determine auspicious dates for war, marriage, harvest. This was not ignorance. It was an attempt to find order in an uncertain world. And while modern science has given us new tools to predict weather, illness, economic trends, it has not eliminated uncertainty. It has not answered the questions that keep us awake at night. Will I be okay? Is there a reason for my suffering? Does my life mean something? Susan Miller does not claim to answer these questions, but she offers a lens through which they can be examined. Her forecasts are dense with detail, planetary degrees, eclipse points, retrograde periods. She references historical astrological events, connects current alignments to patterns that last occurred decades ago. Her work is meticulous, almost academic, and yet, at the core of it all is something deeply subjective. The belief that the positions of distant planets can influence the trajectory of a human life. Can they? Science says no. The gravitational pull of Jupiter, while immense in the context of the solar system, is negligible on an individual human being. The light from distant stars, while beautiful, carries no causal force over whether you receive a raise or lose a job. But millions of people, intelligent, educated, successful people, read their horoscopes, consult astrologers, plan major decisions around Mercury retrograde. Why? Perhaps because astrology offers something science cannot. Narrative. Science explains how. Astrology explores why. Or at least, it offers a story that makes the chaos feel less random. When Susan Miller tells a Sagittarius that huge money is possible in the last week of January, she's not just predicting an event. She's giving that person a story to live inside. A framework that transforms waiting into anticipation, effort into destiny, coincidence into cosmic design. And sometimes the story itself is enough. Susan Miller has faced skepticism her entire career. She has been called a charlatan, a fraud, a peddler of false hope. She has also been called a genius, a guide, a source of comfort in dark times. Both are true, depending on who you ask. But what remains consistent is this: Susan Miller works. Her forecasts are not dashed off. They take weeks to write. She has spoken publicly about the toll this work takes on her health, the pressure from readers who demand her predictions the moment a new month begins. And yet, she continues. Because for her, astrology is not a business. though it has become one. It is not a performance, though millions watch. It is a calling. Miller believes in what she does. This much is clear. She believes that the movement of planets carry significance, that patterns exist, that she has been given the ability to read them. Whether she is right is almost beside the point. What matters is that her belief is genuine, and that genuineness creates trust. When she writes huge money for Sagittarius, she is not trying to manipulate. She is reporting what she sees, translating cosmic data into human language, doing what she has done for over 30 years. And in a world increasingly skeptical of institutions, of experts, of anyone claiming to know anything with certainty, Susan Miller offers something quietly radical: conviction. She does not hedge. She does not say maybe or possibly or we'll see. She says, this is what the stars are doing. This is what it means. This is when it will happen. And for those who choose to believe her, that conviction becomes a kind of anchor. January 31st, 2026, the final day of the prophesied week. Around the world, Sagittarians went to bed wondering, did it happen? Did the huge money arrive? For some, the answer was yes. Undeniably, tangibly yes. Bonuses appeared. Deals closed. Checks arrived. Opportunities materialized that had seemed impossible days before. For others, the answer was more subtle. A promising conversation. A door opening slightly. A sense that something had shifted, even if the bank account had not yet reflected it. And for many, the answer was no. The week passed like any other. No windfalls. No miracles. Just January turning into February. The cold continuing. Life going on as it always had. So, what do we make of this? Was Susan Miller wrong? Or was the prediction never meant to be universal? Astrology, as Miller practices it, is not a blunt instrument. She does not claim every Sagittarius will experience the same thing. Individual birth charts matter. Rising signs, moon signs, the specific degree of the sun at the moment of birth. All of these nuances shape how a planetary transit might manifest. Huge money for Sagittarius was a general forecast, a headline. The details, the specifics, would vary person to person. But there's another layer to consider. Timing in astrology is not always immediate. A new moon might plant a seed that takes weeks to sprout. An aspect between Venus and Jupiter might create an opportunity that doesn't bear fruit until months later. The last week of January 2026 may have been a window, but windows are not guarantees. They are openings. What comes through depends on 1,000 other factors: preparation, action, luck, circumstance. Susan Miller gave Sagittarians a map, but they still had to walk the terrain. And perhaps that's the real insight. The prediction mattered not because it determined outcomes, but because it influenced actions. It gave people hope at a moment when hope felt scarce. It gave them a reason to try, to believe, to move forward with intention. Whether the stars actually aligned is, in some sense, less important than the fact that people believe they might. There is a story, possibly apocryphal, about a tribe that used divination to decide where to hunt. The hunters would heat the shoulder bone of an animal until it cracked. The pattern of cracks would tell them which direction to travel. Anthropologists studying the tribe assumed this was superstition, random chance. But then they noticed something. The tribe consistently found game. Why? Because the cracks in the bone were effectively random. They forced the hunters to go in different directions each time, preventing them from overhunting any single area. The divination didn't predict where the animals were. It created a strategy that, over time, ensured the animals would always be found. The ritual worked not because it was magic, but because belief in it created behavior that produced results. Susan Miller's prediction may function the same way, not as literal prophecy, but as catalyst. By announcing huge money for Sagittarius during a specific week, Miller gave her readers a focal point. She concentrated their attention, their energy, their willingness to act. And in that concentration, real change became possible. A negotiation that might have been delayed was initiated. A risk that might have been avoided was taken. A door that might have been ignored was knocked upon. The money that arrived or didn't was a result of countless small decisions made with slightly more courage because the stars, according to Susan Miller, were on their side. This doesn't diminish the prediction. If anything, it elevates it, because what Miller understands, what she has always understood, is that prophecy is not about being right. It's about being useful. February arrived. The designated week passed. Life continued its strange, unpredictable course. And yet, the story of Susan Miller's prediction lingered, not because it was proven or disproven. Such things are nearly impossible to verify on a cosmic scale, but because it revealed something about us. We are meaning-making creatures. We look for patterns in randomness, purpose in chaos, signs in silence. And when someone like Susan Miller offers us a framework, a narrative, a moment around which to organize our hopes, we seize it. Does the universe care about our bank accounts? Do distant planets arrange themselves to bless or curse our financial endeavors? Maybe, maybe not, but we care. And sometimes that's enough. Susan Miller is still writing. Each month, her forecasts appear, detailed and exhaustive as ever. Millions still read them, still wait for them, still plan their lives around the movement she describes. And somewhere, a Sagittarius who landed a windfall in late January 2026 will tell the story for years to come. They'll mention Susan Miller. They'll talk about the stars aligning. They'll believe, in some fundamental way, that the universe spoke to them through planetary motion and an astrologer's careful words. Others will shake their heads, dismiss it all as coincidence, as wishful thinking, as the human mind finding patterns where none exist. Both will be right in their own way, because the truth about prophecy is this: it's not about the future, it's about the present moment and what we choose to do with it. Susan Miller didn't give Sagittarius huge money in the last week of January 2026, but she gave them something perhaps more valuable, a reason to believe that huge money was possible. And in that belief, for some, it became real. The stars continue their ancient dance. The planets move through their cycles, indifferent to our hopes and fears. And we watch them, as we always have, as we always will, looking for answers, finding stories, trying to understand what it means to be alive in a universe vast beyond comprehension, where sometimes the cosmos seems to whisper, "This is your moment. Be ready." Whether we listen is up to us.